Next, I'd like to introduce the next speaker here. I know the person that you all really came to hear. I've had the pleasure of just coming right before Don here, but yes, Don Shelby, he's been in the journalist business for over 45 years and been an anchor and a journalist for 45 years, and contrary to what my receding hairline would suggest, that's even before I was born, so I can't believe that, you know, I was just like not even somebody's idea at that point. I'm proud to say there's wisdom there, lots of wisdom. It goes deep. Before retiring as from daily journalism in 2010, he worked for 32 years as an anchor with an investigative reporter, environmental co-founder or correspondent with WCCO-TV in Minneapolis and St. Paul. He originated the I-Team concept. People remember the I-Team concept, and that started back in, what was it, 1980? And Project Energy, people remember Project Energy? Kind of really getting out there, yeah. Started that in 2005. He's considered the most honored and decorated local television journalist in the country. I'm not going to read off all of those things because it would take way too long, but at least a few of them.
That's why I emailed them to you.
Yeah. Are you upset that I didn't get a slide made of them now? He has won 3 national Emmys, the Columbia DuPont, the Scripps Howard, the National Distinguished Service Award from the Society of Professional Journalists. I don't even know what these things all are, but they sound really good. And has twice won the Pulitzer Prize for Broadcasting, which is the George Foster Peabody. The list of awards he's won goes on and on and on, as I mentioned. I've had the pleasure of getting to know Don just a little bit better this past year on a personal basis, since he's also a member of the Minnesota GreenStar Board of Directors. And I can say that one of the things I've witnessed is he's a man that works very hard. But not only does he work hard, but he works really smart, and something that I've been really trying to learn from Don. I've witnessed he's a man that is very passionate about helping the building community both understand what it means to be making a change and how to choose to make a change. I've witnessed a man that really does walk the talk, and he's, I'm sure, going to share more about that. So without further ado, I'll hand the microphone over to Don and let him talk about his walk. Yeah, this thing is real slick. So.
Did you wax that just before I came
I
up
did,
there?
yeah.
Good.
Just seeing if I could flush you. I don't know, after all these years, I didn't know.
Keep things up there. Is that yours?
That's mine, yeah. Unless you want to review some of your accolades again.
I use my hands a lot here.
All right.
Hello, everybody, and thank you very much, you little whippersnapper. Can't believe he wasn't born when I started in reporting. I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him. Just a child. Thank you very much for being here tonight. It's just wonderful to see such a great turnout for tonight's talk, and to teach and to talk a little bit more about GreenStar. Mark and Brian put on terrific information that gives you a general knowledge of what GreenStar is all about. That it is, to me, it seems, based on the other state programs that I've looked at, and including the USGBC's LEAD program, is the premier operation in the country. It is difficult. It is a hard thing to do, to implement these programs and to make sure that everything is perfectly straight, that everybody has fit all the requirements, that all of the T's have been crossed, all of the I's have been dotted, but they must be. And it's tough for a reason. I couldn't stand before you today and say, I think being green is a good idea. And that's why I'm building a greenhouse. That's why my house is going to be certified Minnesota GreenStar Gold, as well as duly certified LEED Platinum. I don't do that for bragging rights. And neither should you think about your business or as a supplier to contractors and to architects. That this is because you're on the front edge of the ability to greenwash your activities. We're all familiar with greenwashing. And that is a concern of mine, that people may someday look at this operation and say, was that greenwashing? Well, it is not. It is absolutely not. Walmart was guilty of greenwashing. 5 years ago, Walmart said, we're going to now begin to be green, because they had run into a great deal of trouble with people saying, you're just a bad employer. You don't pay enough. You don't provide enough medical coverage for your people. And so they were getting slammed in the press, and they had bad PR. And so somebody came up with a great idea and said, why don't you just kind of green yourself a little bit? Become green. And that will get more people on Walmart's side, because you will look earth-friendly. So they started. They stuck their toe in the water, and they started doing a little bit here and a little bit there. And they took one of their stores and they changed out some light bulbs, and they put in CFLs. And they called themselves green. And then they started spreading that light bulb thing around the country. And then people said, well, at least they're trying, but they still weren't getting a lot of good pub. Until the bean counters started looking at the amount of money that they were saving. They were saving millions and millions of dollars just on CFLs. And so they said, wait a minute, this may be not a public relations ploy, this could be a business plan. And so Walmart threw itself into it, not because they're great stewards of the earth. They threw themselves into it because it was the future and they could make a great deal of money. My job as a reporter, the toughest job as a reporter, covering the environment and covering new building styles among those things, is trying to get business on the same side as those people who are morally or ethically compelled to do something that is green or energy efficient. It's almost impossible to do. We see the divide today in the United States Congress. We see the divide today in the state legislature in Minnesota. There are people who are absolutely opposed to anything that might be considered earth-friendly because it sounds like you're a pointy-headed sort of communist that will try to redistribute all of the nation's wealth to the poor. That isn't the object, but you can't get it past their politics. They absolutely believe that that's what you're trying to do. That anything that is environmental, anything that is green. I spent the afternoon with the Sen Giant, who is probably the leading conservationist expert in the country, works for the Nature Conservancy. He's been on the David Letterman show, he's on the Today Show, he's on the Discovery Channel, and he's constantly talking about these issues. So what I wanted to do is, because the other fellows have done so much good at talking about GreenStar, I wanted to tell you why it is important for me, at least, and I hope for you as you leave this room, if it already doesn't exist in your consciousness, that you've got to walk the talk. You can't stand around and preach, as I have for the past 15 years, that people need to do more about energy efficiency. They need to build homes that are more durable, more energy efficient, that are friendlier to the built and to the human and natural environment. That you need to do these things. It's been difficult to do, but the only way that I thought that I could ever truly stand on my own 2 feet and make these statements to the public was if I actually walked the talk, if I actually built that house and allowed people to come in and look at it. That was one of the goals. The other goal is the same goal that Walmart had. I'm going to save a lot of money. I'm going to put a lot of money in my pocket over the lifetime of that house because energy consumption is one of the worst things in the country today. We went through a period of history where we were profligate. We built in a profligate way where we cared not about how much energy we used because human beings had moved away from energy. They no longer were producers of energy. It wasn't that long ago. There are people in this room whose grandparents produced their own energy. They cut wood. And they spent a lot of time cutting wood. There were people who had great-great-grandparents who read by candlelight, and they were the ones who produced the candles by rendering the tallow of the deer or the beef that they were raising, and then cordaged the wick, and they were spending hours and hours and hours doing that. And I give you an example. If you spent 6 weeks making candles for 365 days a year so you could read a book, and you were burning one of those candles, it took you 6 weeks to make, and you were reading at night, and you heard the dog bark, and that something outside needed your attention, would you walk out that door without blowing that candle out?
No.
No, because you had a direct relationship to the work it took to make that energy, that light energy. You would conserve it. But for years and years and years, we'd walk out of homes and leave our lights on. We still do today. Because we don't make energy. We make money. And as long as we got money to pay the bills, really doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. We don't think past that. But follow that electrical line all the way back to the plant. And find out how much coal you're responsible for. You as an individual, how much coal are you responsible for? Not only the burning of the coal that goes up the flues and creates problems that are scientifically unquestionable today. There is not a scientist in the United States today, despite what you may believe is disagreement regarding global warming, not one scientist today has published any alternative theory in any peer-reviewed magazine that says that CO2 is not causing the Earth to warm. Not one. The president and the editor of Nature magazine was asked the direct question, why don't you publish more skeptical science? He said, if somebody would give me something, I would publish it. And if they could come up with an alternative theory, then I would put it on the front page of my magazine, and I would nominate personally that person for the Nobel Prize. But there's not one scientist working today who has been able to do that. So when we're working on issues of energy efficiency, that's a handy little word. But why are we working on issues of energy efficiency? Because if you watch Project Energy, if you've studied on your own, you know that the way we are living our lives is unsustainable. And that's why Minnesota GreenStar is so important, because the Minnesota GreenStar program has been a program designed for Minnesota. It's not a program, you can export some of this around the country, but this is for building in Minnesota and the particular needs. We're the most energy dependent state in the nation. We have no coal. We have no natural gas. We have no oil. We import everything. Everything. Our electricity, primarily 57%, comes from coal.